Alrighty, thank you very much for taking time out of your day to tune into this live update on what is coming with the weather pattern ahead, including anything from an Arctic blast that's forecasted as we go towards the upcoming weekend into next week, to the potential for multiple chances of snow, one further north as we see that Arctic blast transition in. And then as we go towards next week, we're going to be watching a snow chance that's also going to be further south. Overviewing everything here for a quick minute to start this live stream. Then I'll break down more in detail the Arctic blast. Then I'll break down more in detail the potential for multiple snow systems. Here we go. Let's just start with that overview of what's going on as we go through the next several days. First of all, here, just as we go towards the upcoming weekend, looking at rain and snow that's going to begin here as we push, especially coming from the Mississippi River Valley eastward with a low pressure system developing. Mostly rain as you come anywhere from the Ohio Valley back down to the southeast, but we are going to have a little bit of snow on the northern end of this system as it progresses along. Behind this, we've got the big cold front. That's what's going to be bringing in our Arctic blast. And you can see possibly as this transition continues to occur out of Saturday into Sunday, we could see some chance for some snow here into parts of not only in the interior northeast, but maybe some low pressure that's going to try and ride up the coastline areas as well. Then from there, this is where things get interesting and a lot of the hype comes up, especially on some various weather pages. Models are trying to indicate, especially this European model, which has been quite bullish between it and its ensembles, some sort of Arctic air system that's going to tap into our cooler than average conditions across parts of the southeastern U.S. Could that mean we see some snow breaking out into some zones? I certainly think that's going to be a possibility by the time we go towards around Monday, heading into Tuesday, towards Wednesday here for someone in the southern or southeastern U.S. We're going to have to watch that entire potential, but for now, I'm going to just start by overviewing that Arctic blast that's on the way in, and then in about 5 minutes, I'll talk more about those snow chances that are going to be on the way as we go deeper down the line. Giving you a look at those temperature anomalies here with the European model, you can see what's going on as we push out of Thursday into our Friday of the upcoming week. Most recent cooldown now beginning to push towards the east and generally off the eastern coast of the United States. Our next warm-up building right on up here into the central U.S. This is going to be short-lived, but temperatures are going to get upwards of 5, 10 to 15 degrees above average as this makes its way in. And then you can already see this right here, this little green area, temperatures 10 to 15 degrees below average back into Montana and Wyoming. This is going to be our next cool down that expands across the entire U.S. And once it gets more of a push from some even cooler air coming from literally Siberia and then making its way down through Canada, it's going to make a big jog down to the south and east. And by the end of the weekend, look at what happens through Saturday, pushing into Sunday with that front going off the east coast. All the way over to the east coast, we're at least 15 degrees below average behind this front by the time we go towards around our Sunday afternoon and evening. But as you transition back here, especially back west of the Ohio Valley into the Central Plains, this entire mass right here, looking at temperatures that are anticipated to be based on model and ensemble guidance, anywhere from around 20 to 40 degrees below normal. And when you're 40 degrees below normal right here, especially in Montana, coming into Wyoming and into the Dakotas, say around Sunday afternoon into the evening, that is some downright well below average air that is going to be very, very frigid. We're talking negative 50 for the feels like temperature in some areas with this type of cold. Nonetheless, we continue to watch the cold expand east, and the biggest anomalies are going to even pivot on over here into some parts of the Ohio Valley. Does that mean that being 40 degrees below average in the Ohio Valley while it's 30 degrees below average in Iowa means that Kentucky is colder than Iowa? Not necessarily. It's just more anomalous in this specific region like the Ohio Valley with that type of cold by the time we go towards around Monday to Tuesday. When you've got this much cold air in place, I say this so much, I've said it in my videos if you tune into those, when you've got such a level of cold air across a big area of the country pushing down like so, you're pushing in so much dry air. When the feels like temperatures anywhere from negative 30 down to negative 50 into the north central U.S. like it will be into the early part of next week, that is bone dry air. You need something called the dew point, which is basically a measure of some moisture content in the air, to give you a simple definition, to be a lot higher to get some at least minimal enough moisture to support some form of winter weather. And the only place we're going to possibly be able to see that as we go to at least Monday to Wednesday next week is going to be down here as we come towards the Gulf Coast, pushing over into the southeast. And that's what I'm going to break down here more in detail in just a moment or two. But let's start here. Let's pull this up right here so that we can do this and look at those forecast high temperatures day by day as we go with the upcoming pattern. We'll also look at some of those low temperatures, and keep in mind wind chills will be even lower. You can check some of those types of forecasts at your local National Weather Service office. That's weather.gov, your local weather National Weather Service. By the way, I hope everybody is doing well out there, whether you're watching this with me live or after. I'd love it if you'd hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. But here we go. Let's push it forward. Out of Thursday into Friday of this week, I talked about this in the last video update that I produced right here on the channel. Looking at 60s and even 70s down here into Texas, parts of Louisiana, Arkansas, and over into out of Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, into Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. Pretty warm for this time of the year. And again, this is with that anomalous ridge building all the way up. Even these 30s and 40s further up into the Midwest, technically a little bit below, or excuse me, above average as we push towards around Friday. Out of Friday into Saturday and Sunday, look at the change that is anticipated by the time we go into our Sunday evening. Temperatures here all across this area only getting up during the afternoon and evening hours of a day like Sunday to the teens and single digits. In some cases, the teens and single digits on the other side of zero. Again, very dangerous cold that's anticipated to make its way on in. And we continue to see this expand. Let's look more at some of those minimum temperatures. These are your low temperatures day by day. Saturday morning, you can see your cold front advancing. Out ahead of it, we've still got 30s and 40s pushing all the way up here into the Ohio Valley in the morning, but we're single digits already up here in the north central U.S., and that's only going to continue to push southeast and become worse in terms of how cold it's going to be. Remember, people, pipes, and peps, those are your things that you want to be protecting in this type of cold. Here we go, pushing those low temperatures into the day like Sunday morning. Now you see your cold fronts all the way down here with that freezing line back to the northwest of it. I mean, literally anywhere north of this line, expecting freezing or below for your low temperature into Sunday. And many spots north of the secondary line I'm drawing right here, struggling to maintain a 0 degree or warmer temperature in the morning. Many spots -10 to -20 on up there, feeling much colder with any wind that you get into Montana, Wyoming, the Dakotas, Minnesota. They're definitely going to feel the worst impacts if you live up there from this Arctic outbreak into some of those zones. Out of Sunday into Monday, and then even into Tuesday. Look at Tuesday morning, Monday, and then Tuesday. This entire area not expected to see, and let me rephrase this, expected to see temperatures below 0 for the morning. That is some insane cold all the way as far south as northern Kentucky, parts of West Virginia, even western Virginia, on up here into the interior northeast. And in these areas, it's just even colder as you go north of this line. Very dangerous cold. People, pipes, and pets, those are the things you need to be protecting, because when it's this cold and you factor in any type of wind, look at what this does to your feels-like temperature. This is your feels-like temperature with the European model. It's indicating that a big swath, for example, of the country, even in the afternoon hours of Monday, some of those same areas that are going to be even colder in terms of the actual temperature into Tuesday morning, feeling like below 0 in the afternoon of Monday. And then into our Tuesday morning, this is just, especially right up in here, downright cold. And everywhere else, it's still unprecedented for this time of the year. So be ready for the cold. But one thing I definitely want to talk about here with the upcoming pattern is the possibility that we could be seeing some snow impact some other areas other than just the north or the Midwest. And in fact, I don't even know why I'm saying it like that, because it's actually been continuously impacting some areas a little bit further south than you'd usually expect, especially considering this was forecasted to be a warmer than average winter in a lot of locations. Let's use these GFS ensembles, basically a mean of a bunch of different pieces of guidance coming together to show you where rain and snow are being forecasted with different trends at different times. Starting here as we go through the rest of this week, Wednesday, Thursday, and then here we go. By the time we go through our Friday into the early part of our Saturday, January 18th, notice the trend right here into the Mississippi Valley, literally starting right around the Mississippi Valley region and then starting to push east. We're going to quickly see some showers and thunderstorms blossom up in that warmer than average air that's going to end this week in these zones. So it's just rain, and it's not even really a cold rain in a lot of these spots, anywhere from Indiana and Kentucky all the way back down to parts of Mississippi and Alabama, as that warm front with this low pressure is going to be right on up here. Nonetheless, we are going to have a little bit of snow trying to break out on the tail end of this cold front. As indicated by this ensemble guidance, will it amount to much? No, but Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, starting around you guys, and then pushing east, we could at least see some brief snow that will try to produce at least a dusting with this front pushing east as we go out of Friday into Saturday. Through the day Saturday, that's what we're looking at here. Keep in mind that just because your area is in a green or blue shade on this map does not mean you're going to be seeing rain or snow at this given time. This is just an indication, and especially with those deeper colors on screen, of where these ensembles are having the highest confidence in some form of that type of precipitation occurring. Looks like your rain-snow line out of this low and the cold front bringing in your Arctic blast is going to be right about here as we go into our Saturday afternoon and evening, bringing a chance for some snow, at least a lighter snow possible here into the Ohio Valley. better chance for heavier snow coming off the lakes and then into these interior northeast zones as it pushes through, while we're watching at the same time Saturday afternoon rain and heavier thunderstorms possible back down here into the southeastern part of the U.S. As we go out of Saturday into Sunday, you'd think this system's done. It's wrapping up, the cold air starting to flush in behind it. But there's a lot of indications that we're going to try and get a quick little extra area of low pressure to ride this initial front and then come on up here towards the southern New England shores as we go out of Saturday and then into the morning and daylight hours of our Sunday. And you can see that little possibility there in your GFS ensembles, at least some brief signals. Something might try to happen in one of these zones that I've got circled right here to cap off this event, even if you get rain for most of it. Maybe a brief flash of snow after a brief dry spell through the middle of it. So again, here's what I'm trying to show. It looks like rain for pretty much all the way up the east coast as this cold front begins to push through Saturday, but we might see some chances of snow trying to push over to this area if anything is still going on by the time we go into our Sunday. Something we're going to have to watch, but overall the big trend is just Arctic outbreak across the United States by the time we go towards around the mid-morning time frame of our Monday, January 20th. Cold air sinking southbound like so. And the reason I show you these GFS ensembles instead of just the GFS model by itself is because when you blend a bunch of different pieces of guidance together, they do a much better job of showing overall trends as opposed to just a single model run and its outputs. And the trend is that this little area of snow right here coming out of parts of the Rockies around Monday morning is going to combine with a little bit of moisture here trying to move up from the Gulf as we go out of Monday into Tuesday. And that can mean something's going to form down here along the southern quarter of the U.S. Some point, I think early to mid next week is the highest confidence in that. You can see that here. Even though the GFS model, if you look at its specific runs, aren't showing anything, the GFS ensembles are certainly showing a trend that something wintry is going to develop on the southern flank here of that huge Arctic blast that's expected across the U.S. into next week. With very cold, dry air up here in the north, not getting enough moisture pulled up there to get a snowstorm. But again, that means that we're going to have a better chance as you come to where moisture is able to be readily available, coming right off the Gulf of Mexico. Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, the Carolinas. I think these are some of, believe it or not, the highest chance areas for a possible winter weather event as we push towards around, especially maybe Tuesday and into Wednesday of next week. These GFS ensembles certainly showing that something wintry could move through there, and there may be a transition with sleet and ice that could become dangerous in some of these zones as well. Then beyond that, maybe we dry out. We don't really know what's going to come by the end of next week, but this is definitely a growing signal, and this is only 6 days out as of the time that I'm doing this live stream, this signal for around Tuesday heading into Wednesday now. So we're definitely starting to see that signal. Do we want to focus on the exact details? No. But again, this ensemble guidance is showing the trend that anywhere from Texas to the Carolinas and mid-Atlantic, we could possibly be seeing a snowy-like system somewhere, especially in this zone right down the middle, as we go into next week. And it's not just these GFS ensembles. In fact, the European ensembles have been a lot more bullish on this potential. This is your probability map for at least 1 inch of snowfall with some of the latest guidance here from the European ensembles. This is collecting literally over 50 different outputs and averaging it together to give you this percentage. What percentage of these is showing 1 inch of snow? What percentage is not? Let's see what the percentage chances are as of this time for at least 1 inch of snow as we push through the upcoming pattern. Notice by the time we go through this upcoming weekend, first of all, just starting off with that cold front up here into the Great Lakes and interior Northeast, a little bit of snow. It's not going to be too much. A very usual snowstorm, so to speak, for this time of the year on the back end of that cold front into the Ohio Valley and interior Northeast as we go out of around Saturday into Sunday. Chances are at least 30 to 60% for some of snow to try and make it towards the coastline there as we go towards around Sunday. It's iffy, but we would just be looking at light to moderate totals, even if it did make it to the southern New England and mid-Atlantic shores here around, again, that Sunday into early Monday time frame. From there, then we're watching this energy that we have now compiled back on up here into parts of the Rockies. You can see it there. We've got Wyoming, we've got Colorado, we've got parts of New Mexico stretching into North Texas where we've got all of this 1 inch snowfall probabilities already lining up at the time we go through Monday afternoon. And then look at how the chances build up in the south. Let's turn it to the 24-hour probability so that you can really see that specific signal here on these Euro ensembles. This is the time frame from Monday evening to Tuesday evening, so from around Monday at 7 p.m. to Tuesday at 7 p.m. This is pretty high confidence. These bluish shades here on the perimeter where I'm putting this circle line, at least about a 10 to a 20 to 30% chance into some of these zones, according to this European ensemble guidance, and the blend that it forms here for 1 inch of snow by the time we go from around Monday to Tuesday. And this center line right here coming from Texas again over to the Carolinas, this looks like a hot spot where the chances are already upwards of 40 to 60%. for a possible 1 inch snow by the time we go to the midweek point of next week. So it's crazy to say, but the way this is lining up into next week, you got so much cold air coming down from the north central U.S. that you actually push your snow chance, and a pretty decent one at that, to be somewhere right along this corridor. In terms of the probabilities of at least 3 inches of snow, again, I'm not trying to hype this up and make anybody too excited. It's not an extremely elevated probability, but you can see by the time we push through around Wednesday afternoon, chances go up certainly. Anywhere here from around Texas, again, over to the Carolinas, that's where it looks like we could see something. Is it going to be one big system? Could there be multiple areas of snow? Don't really know right now, but again, the south is where our snow signal is showing up, and there's already some 20+% chances of 3 inches or more of snow. That's pretty good from a blend of guidance this far out. Certainly something we're watching into next week, and look at this. It's not a non-zero chance for at least 6 inches of snow in some of these same zones either. And if we look at other guidance like the Canadian ensemble, the one that we haven't looked at yet, look at what it's indicating. This is for 6+ inches of snow. It shows that similar corridor for at least 1 inch of snow. There it is right there. Same area. Somewhere here from Texas over to the Carolinas. Definitely watching a signal, not a guarantee, but a signal. We're probably going to have something going on in one of these areas. I can guarantee you that. I know that seems vague, but something snowy or icy is going to be happening in these areas by the time we go towards next week. Just for fun, let's go on over here and pivot back over to our European model. Let's look at the most recent one that's come in here as we've gone into the evening run of today, our Wednesday. Keep in mind that this run only goes to Tuesday at 1 p.m., so it's not going to go all the way through the duration of when those higher elevated snow chances are going to be possible based on the ensemble guidance for the southern corridor. But here's what we're looking at. Again, there's your system bringing that snow on its tail end up there, maybe a little extra burst in the mid-Atlantic and southern New England shores as we go through the upcoming weekend. Then we're cold. Then we're watching that next system coming on down. This particular run, this is just a single run, not a blend, so don't trust this with your life. But this solution may be showing, okay, here's a little snow trying to come down in that area the ensembles are agreeing on. Oklahoma, Arkansas, Texas, into Louisiana. And look at that, spreading out along that corridor. Where the ensembles show that highest guidance. And again, somewhere between snow and then where we get rain closer to the Gulf Coast, we might even see an ice transition. So something messy is looking like it's going to form up here, I think especially into around Tuesday-ish, into the southern and southeastern U.S. next week. And it's certainly a signal that we've got to watch. These models have been indicating something trying to happen here on and off for a little while now, and the guidance just continues to show an increasing signal. So that's definitely going to be the kind of details that we want to keep an eye on here as you push on down here towards the southern and southeastern United States. We've got 219 people watching as of when I'm doing this live. We've got 35 likes on this stream. If we can get that like number up, and if you're new to the channel, I'd love it if you'd subscribe down below. Those two things would be great. But at this time, this is the end of my live discussion here, or the overview of what I'm talking about. Now I want to get into some of the specific questions, because I'm sure we've got some great ones right down here in the live chat at this time. Let's see what some folks are asking. If you can start pouring in those questions that you get. I'm just going to start here with what's at the most recent part of my chat when I am opening the chat to read some of these messages right now. James Davidson says there might be a change in the pattern, at least very briefly, with milder temperatures in February, but then the longer range outlook, it looks like better Arctic cold will return again. Yeah, honestly, I haven't been focusing too much on the long range pattern, but we can briefly pull that up here before we get into others of those questions that we could see with this pattern. But yeah, let's see. Yeah, definitely a warm-up possible at some point. I don't see any huge guaranteed signal of an Arctic outbreak continuing down the line. That's something we'll have to track. But it definitely looks like a colder pattern could continue all the way through February, especially for the north with this La Nina that's in place. If anything is common, it's below average temperatures in the north with a La Nina. But I don't think anybody's really been anticipating the magnitude of these winter systems that have been trying to even form up further south. Let's see what we've got here. How much snow do I think Knoxville, Tennessee could see? All right, I'm going to tell you this. We are, to anybody who wants to know exact snow totals, we are 6 to 7 days out probably. Monday is the earliest something might onset in the far south central U.S., then into Tuesday and Wednesday is when it's looking like our signal picks up. Again, let's put it on the ensemble so we don't, show a specific model, because we don't really want to look at specific models right now. We want to look at these overall signals. Here's your ensemble. Looks like at a Tuesday into Wednesday is when your best chance for any sort of winter weather is going to develop right here along that southern corridor of the U.S. So I can't tell you anything about, your chance of snow specifically in a place like Knoxville, Tennessee. What I can pull back up, though, is those probability maps and your probabilities from a blend of guidance of you getting a set amount at this given time. And, this is going to be the type of guidance that we really want to look at when we're this far out. In a place like Knoxville, Tennessee, the probability of at least, let's zoom in here on the southeast U.S., probability of at least an inch of snow, according to these European ensembles, which have been pretty on board with this whole setup. This might be a little bullish, but showing at least 40 to 50% there. Believe it or not, the heaviest snow track might try to be to your south next week, depending on which specific models and ensembles you look at. Probabilities of greater than 3 inches, not too high, and then 6 inches, not too high for that. Believe it or not, I think if we're getting anything as we go towards next week, and you can really see it here when you look at those probabilities for at least 3 inches, it looks like the best chances might actually be further south here, through the middle part of some of these Gulf Coast and Southeast states, which is going to be something we have to watch. Again, not a forecast, but a signal that we're watching. Let's see, Columbus, Georgia. Yeah, all through Georgia, here's your probabilities. I mean, I think Georgia's in one of the places that is looking like there could definitely be winter weather as we go towards next week. Here's the probability of at least an inch of snow in Georgia by the time we go through the end of Wednesday. Pretty much the entire state having at least some chance, and that chance increases into the central parts of the state, as you can see here. Chances are upwards of 40 to 50% for something wintry to come through there around Tuesday or Wednesday. If we look at the Canadian ensembles, a different blend, it's showing similar percentages. Again, unless you're right down there along the Florida border, chances go quickly up from 20 to 30 to 40 to 50% as you come right on up here into the central part of the state. Even the GFS guidance, which hasn't been as bullish necessarily, is showing some level of chance, especially into central Georgia, for maybe some snow, at least a 30% chance of an inch even on this guidance, which is your lowest scale ensemble guidance in terms of showing a system. So decent confidence in something wintry trying to come to Georgia next week. Don't, I'm not guaranteeing anything for anybody, but, you could get an inch of snow, and there's already about a 30 to 50% chance. Let's see what else we've got here. How much in Maryland? If you're talking about with that system that's going to be coming as we go into the upcoming weekend, that's a good question. Let's go ahead and pivot on over here into the Mid-Atlantic region of the United States. Mid-Atlantic. Let's look at your national blend of models. If anything, this is going to be a little bit on the conservative side in terms of your snow totals, but this is pretty good to look at. Doesn't look like Maryland gets much. If you get snow, it's going to be into Sunday and early Monday with that extra low that could pivot along the back end of your cold front, and maybe we get an inch to 3 inches of snow in some of these zones at the higher end. And then from there, we might get more snow mid to late next week, possibly, or somewhere in that general time frame if something that was prior in the south tries to move up your way. But time will tell with something like that. We'll have to keep an eye on that. But Maryland, if we look at those 24-hour chances for an inch of snow with these European ensembles, you can see it looks like something, if anything forms in the south around early to midweek next week, it could eventually pivot up to the north and east, but that's even further out. We don't want to go into La La Land right now. Is Houston getting snow next week? Well, I can tell you your chances if we go down to the state of Texas here with your probabilities on these European ensembles. They're showing about upwards of a 30% chance, especially in the northern suburbs, for about an inch of snow. But I would anticipate more of freezing rain or just regular rain as you get closer to the coast in a place like Houston if anything forms next week. Don't get your hopes up there especially. Snow south of New Orleans. Let's go back and pivot on over here. South Central, this should be what we're looking for. Or Southeast. Yeah, Southeast is going to be just as good. I wouldn't rule it out. You could definitely at least see some flakes as we go towards next week. The probability for at least an inch of accumulation, let's look at that here. On the south side of New Orleans, it's only about a 10 to 20% chance for an inch of snow according to this. So I wouldn't get your hopes up, but you might at least see some flakes. Yeah, that was a crazy year for Texas, 2021. Any thunder snow possible? I don't even want to talk about that. That would be a crazy storm if that were to happen, and I don't see a crazy storm just yet. I'll keep you updated on if something were like that were to happen, though. Yep, hit the like button. I appreciate that comment there as well. Of course, super thanks are always appreciated as well, and I will get to those donation questions as well first. Anybody who does the donations will get their questions answered first, but let's go through the regular chat and continue doing that for now. Greenville, South Carolina, says Jaden Jackson. Yeah, so looking on up into parts of South Carolina, and then as you push towards the northern part of the state, looks like according to this guidance, which is definitely at least on the higher side with this ensemble, it's showing 50 to 60% chance of at least an inch of snow in central and northern South Carolina. Looking at a chance for at least 3 inches of snow, it's upwards of 30%. And then upwards of about 10%, right around 10 to 15 to 20% for at least 6 inches of snow there. So don't bank on anything too crazy. in South and North Carolina just yet. But these are definitely some of the higher chance areas for at least an inch of snow, and it could turn to be a bigger system, maybe even for central parts of the state. So Greenville, definitely be looking out. You could definitely be on the snowier side, not the icier side, if this trend continues of any system, for any system that would form. Central North Georgia, I got 4 inches of snow this past weekend. That's nice, and you might get another chance here as we go into next week. How much snow will Metro Atlanta get next week? Again, we can't talk about specifics, but there in Metro Atlanta, it looks like about a 50% chance for at least an inch out of anything that could come from around Monday through early Thursday. About a 20 to 40% chance for a 3 inches, and a little bit of a chance, about a 10 to a 30% chance for at least 6 inches. So that's certainly something we're going to have to keep an eye out for there. East Texas, pivoting back on over here to these, or let's go to South Central. Hope everybody can see that okay. East Texas. Probability, that's the 6 inches I was going to say. East Texas, Euro ensembles are definitely saying that you could at least get an inch of snow. That's one of the higher probability areas, about a 60 to a 70% chance for an inch of snow, again, out of whatever could possibly come. This is a signal, not a guarantee, as we go towards next week. Chance of at least about 40% in far eastern Texas, especially northeast Texas, for 3 inches of snow, and a non-zero chance for 6 inches with anything that could come into the early to the mid part of next week. What are chances of the Jersey Shore seeing a big snowstorm? Let's look at what's going on here for the east. Again, it's looking like, let's look at the 24-hour increment probabilities here with the Euro ensembles. So here we go through the near term again, or not the near term, but into the early to the mid part of next week. Our snow signal is definitely further south anytime from Monday to Wednesday, but into the Jersey Shore, we could try to see something sneak up there. 20% chance of at least an inch of snow this far out towards Wednesday, towards Thursday, maybe up there into the mid-Atlantic. That's, decent to look at. And again, these ensembles are just probabilities of there being snow. This isn't really forecasting exact totals for anyone right now. This is just probabilities of specific amounts. So a 20% chance of at least an inch is non-zero, and technically there is some level of chance that there could be over 6 inches of snow as you go towards the Jersey Shore by the end of next week. So we'll have to see if one of those systems, if we even get one that comes along the south, could eventually pivot on up there into the mid-Atlantic next week. That's going to be a trend we have to continue to watch. Ensembles are going to be what we're looking at. We're not looking at specific model runs just yet. That shows you how far out we are. We're not even comparing the Euro-specific model versus the GFS-specific model. We're looking at the ensembles, which is a blend of all these different pieces of guidance. We're not talking about thunder snow. What are the chances of the Jersey Shore getting a big snowstorm? Keep in mind I am behind on some of these comments. Oh yeah, that was the one I just read. Hello to you there. I'm Samuel Wilkinson Jr. in the live chat. Let's see. I've seen a downdraft in northwest Louisiana blow snow to the ground during a severe thunderstorm with hail. Wow, that's crazy. What about ice in the southeast next week? Yeah, ice could definitely become a big factor, and we don't have any ensemble guidance that I can pull up actively for you right now that shows specific ice. But, again, this is a specific one run of a model. Do not take this solution as meaning anything. But what this does indicate to me, if we just look at the southeast U.S. here, this Euro model is definitely showing that with whatever we do get next week, it's not probably going to look exactly like this. There could be ice along that southern fringe, and it could be a pretty large-scale system. And when you have lighter-scale precipitation and you got freezing rain accreting gradually over time, that can be significant. So we're going to have to watch the freezing rain threat for someone who's on the ice to rain, the rain to snow to ice line there as we go into next week. If we get a system, which the chances are much higher for something to be there, I can tell you that. Whatever the next Maryland snow is, I hope it gives a nice blanket over everything. Have plenty of snow photos, but I would like more. Yeah, we could definitely use more snow photos myself down here in South Carolina. Just want 1 inch of snow in North Louisiana, nothing more. I mean, not to get anybody's hopes up in northern Louisiana. Where did my probabilities maps go? Here we go. Let's go back on over to this. United States. This is a specific model. Let's go to the probabilities of winter weather. These are great questions, everyone. Northern Louisiana has about a 50 to a 60% chance of getting at least an inch of snow by the time we go through just Tuesday. And, if something doesn't happen by Tuesday, the chances all the way up to around 70% by the time you get through Thursday morning. So again, when I say through a certain time, this is just ensembles carrying out, their averages and percentages for a specific period of time. Right now, we don't know if it's going to be Monday or Tuesday that this area gets impacted, or Tuesday or Wednesday for these zones. We're just looking at a general Monday to Wednesday time frame, and here are your chances of seeing X amount of snow during that time based on these ensembles. That's what we're looking at here. All right, I've scrolled down here to the most recent chat. I hope I haven't missed anything too crazy from everybody else. But let's see. Severe Storm Filmer, I have a flight tomorrow morning from Cleveland, Ohio to Orlando, Florida. Will snow affect tomorrow morning? Let's look. I don't think anything too crazy should be affecting. And if there's any snow, well, there might be some snow going on up there in Ohio, but I mean, that's light to moderate snow. I wouldn't assume that would affect any, aviation stuff. I'm not an aviation expert, but I don't think a little bit of snow would affect you taking off there out of Ohio. I think Ohio should be used to getting at least light snow. Uh, 220 people watching right now and 79 likes. I'd love it if we could get that like number to 100. So if we can do that real quick, then something certainly to keep hit that like button. And again, anybody who does do those super thanks chat messages, those will be answered first. The current snow is melted and things are starting to look bland and messy. Free Roam Baltimore says, yeah, things are warming up to finish this week. But man, things are swinging into next week. Again, when you're that cold, you're so dry up here that you force all your snow chances south. Looks like North Georgia might get some. What am I thinking? Yeah, let me go ahead and give you a look at that there, Lee Crenshaw. Let's go back over to our probabilities. This is your probabilities map for some form of snowfall to occur from Monday to Wednesday. The chance into North Georgia looks to be at least about 50% for an inch of snow or more by the time we go from Monday to Wednesday. That's a pretty good chance. For at least 3 inches, you're at about 30% chance to 40%. And for about 6 inches of snow, you're at about 10 to 20%. That's all I can say right now. I can't tell you the specific day, how much snow you're exactly going to get. Those are just your chances of certain amounts. What's funny is these European ensembles are actually saying the only area with at least a 10% chance for a foot of snow is on the Carolina coast. What in the world? So the GFS model is now in agreement with the Euro and Canadian. Andy Clinton says, not exactly. So if we look at the exact models, that's a really good question. If we look at the exact models here, here's your Euro for early next week. Here's your Canadian, showing something a little bit, different on the timing, but again, something there, right? GFS, nothing. So you're like, well, then where are you saying the GFS is showing some snow? The GFS ensembles are showing snow. Look at that. They're showing a signal. This is why you don't just look at the specific GFS model by itself when you're this far out. You look at its blend of guidance, all these different runs that get formed into this mean here, because they're showing some sort of signal that could be anywhere from Texas to around the Carolinas into the early part of next week. This is why we look at ensembles, not the specific models. Think of ensembles as like a blend of a bunch of models coming together as opposed to just one. There's a lot of different solutions that get run into this as opposed to just a single one, and that's why I like to look at these this far out. But yeah, these have definitely been some great questions from everybody here so far. Yeah, foot at the Carolina coast, I wouldn't trust anything like that. But, technically there's a 10% chance if you look at the ensemble guidance, and that's the type of guidance we like to look at this far out. So I definitely think there's going to be an area that gets heavier totals somewhere in the south next week. I mean, even these, look at this. This is blended guidance, keep in mind. GFS ensembles, their blended guidance showing something in the south, maybe even closer to the Gulf Coast, crazily enough, by the time we go through next week. Could we see a little bit of snow even a little bit south of New Orleans? We had a question about that earlier. Yeah, certainly so. Again, let's push back over to the European ensembles. European ensembles would say that it's a little bit better of a chance for some form of snow further north. Better chance somewhere here in Texas, Louisiana, and then over into the Carolinas by the time we go through Wednesday next week. And again, the fact that ensembles are already averaging out to show totals of 3 inches happening in a lot of zones somewhere along here, that's pretty good. That's pretty good agreement that something is going to be happening in the southern corridor. I don't know how many times I have to say that, but very, very interesting setup. But with that being said, that was about a 35-minute live stream. We've answered a good bit of questions. If you have any further questions, make sure you're dropping them just down in the regular comments section right after this live stream. Thank you to everybody who hit that like button and got this stream to 100 likes. Share this channel with family and friends. I do live weather updates now and then ahead of the systems like this. I also do video content. I'd love it if you turn on those notifications so you never miss any of those updates. Send this out to family and friends. And by the way, with those notifications, there's so many subscribers who come back and watch every single video or live stream or whatever, or many of them, but they don't actually have notifications on. If you turn on notifications, you can do settings on your phone where they're not going to blow up your phone, but when you go into YouTube, you'll see that you have a little notification up there on the top right. You click on that, you click and see that it was One Nation Weather, and you're able to watch my latest video or live stream as it's happening. So I'd love it if you do that so that you can, get those, help me get some more of those consistent views up for sure. But thank you very much. Share this out so that we can get to 10,000 subscribers soon. I'll see you in the next live video or regular video update.